I'm a comedian who got a talk show, and I ended the show every day by saying, be kind to one another.
America loves a comeback story, but we forget the bill. Tonight isn't about a halo or a takedown. It's about the price tag on a life lived in public. Ellen DeGeneres, the girl who learned to turn pain into punchlines, the star who turned daytime into a temple, and the woman who found out that kindness is easy to say and brutal to live. Start at the beginning, where the silence weighed more than the furniture. Metairie, Louisiana. A father, Elliot, steady as paperwork. A mother, Betty, loving but fighting her own war. Divorce in 1973 splits the table in half. Brother Vance goes one way, Ellen goes the other, into a new house, a new family, and a darkness no child should ever meet. A stepfather crosses a line. She asks for belief and hears disbelief. That wound doesn't scab over, it calcifies. And here's the first hidden truth. Some people learn to survive by becoming funny, not to entertain, to breathe. Cut to New Orleans, a cracked apartment, a buzzing lamp, a notebook stained with coffee and stubbornness. Secretary, sales clerk, house painter, waitress, bartender. Jobs that teach humility and the art of listening. She writes jokes like a mason lays brick. One more line, one more beat, one more way to make the room forget its ache. The clubs are smoky and half empty. Sometimes the silence after a joke is a knife. She walks home anyway. Timing sharpens. Fear becomes fuel. And then, 1986, Johnny Carson watches a set that feels effortless because it was forged in humiliation. He gives her the couch. In that moment, he isn't just a host. He's the gatekeeper. He points, and she crosses the river. Brick by brick, she moves from guest to headliner to a name on a door. Ellen, mid-90s, sitcom America, safe laughs, cozy kitchens, problem solved in 22 minutes. Until she detonates. The premise, 1997, the puppy episode. On screen, the character comes out. Off screen, the woman does too. It's brave, yes, but bravery is a pretty word for risk that can take your career's head off. Advertisers run, ratings dive, headlines preach and punish. 1998, canceled. Let's be honest, the culture wanted the smiles, not the truth. She pays alone. And then, slow as a tide, the return. 2003, daytime, the Ellen DeGeneres Show. Dancing down the aisle like a breeze through a heavy room. Giveaways, hugs, the be kind benediction. America needed that tone after years of static, and she delivered it with a sniper's timing. Dory makes her voice immortal. Just keep swimming becomes a secular prayer. Kids repeat to get through math class, and grown-ups whisper when the bills arrive. She hosts the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars. She turns daytime into comfort food. The arc is stunning. Canceled for telling the truth. Decorated a generation later for the same truth. That's not PR, that's a nation catching up. But storms don't check your resume. March 2020, a tweet that lands like a lit match in a dry canyon. Quarantine boredom becomes crowdsourced prosecution. Stories pour out, some petty, some sharp, some devastating. Old clips get rewatched through new eyes. The brand, kindness, collides with allegations of a set where kindness didn't always reach. July, a BuzzFeed investigation. HR words like toxic and misconduct start living next to her name on the same search page as Dory and Oscar's selfie. Warner Media investigates. Producers are out. September season premiere. She faces the camera and says the words leaders have to say. I take responsibility. For some, it lands. For others, the jokes in the monologue taste like sugar dusted on a burn. Ratings dip, sponsors drift. Trust, her strongest currency, evaporates in the desert sun. 2021. She announces the show will end after season 19. Not a curtain call, a weather report. The climate changed. Let's not rewrite history to make neat edges. Two things can be true at once. She built a space where millions felt less alone, and some people inside that machine felt disposable. She made generosity a daily ritual and learned too late that culture won't run on slogans. Be kind is not a sign, it's a system. If you grew up when decency was expected, This is the lesson you recognize. Reputation is rented, responsibility is owned. But this isn't just a workplace story. It's a love story with scar tissue. Anne Heche, 1997. Two women holding hands on a red carpet. Contracts vaporize. The relationship ends, but the cost doesn't. Anne's later struggles become tabloid sport, until tragedy in 2022 ends the conversation with a siren. That loss echoes back across decades, a reminder that being first often means being bruised. Then Alexandra Hedison, an interlude of steadiness, quieter rooms, cleaner lines, an artist's eye for peace, necessary but not the forever house. And then Portia de Rossi. If you're looking for the human core of this story, here it is. Two people with public faces and private battles. Eating disorders, depression, the white noise of shame decide to turn toward, not away. 2008, vows at home during a brief legal window, not an event, an anchoring. When the internet's tide turned ugly in 2020, Portia posted 4 words: "I stand by Ellen." It was more than a post, it was a roof beam. Through hospitals, therapy, and headlines, she showed up. That's what marriage means after the photographers go home. Age enters the chat, uninvited and undefeated. Osteoporosis, arthritis, OCD rituals that will not shut up, ADHD that scatters focus like confetti. The body that once sprinted across studio floors starts bargaining for stares. The hands that punctuated punchlines now argue with jars and doorknobs. She adapts. Fewer sprints, more stretches. Fewer shows, more walks. Therapy stops being a punchline and becomes oxygen. And those houses, Beverly Hills, Montecito, hideaways built and restored, turn into sanctuaries rather than trophies. England calls. Green hills, stone walls, slower clocks. Fame is loud, healing is quiet. One last lap, 2024. A tour with a title sharp enough to cut. Ellen's Last Stand, Up, and a Netflix special for your approval. She goes back to the original trade. A mic, a mind, a room. She talks about the storm instead of pretending it was weather on another channel. The laughter is edged with something older. Acceptance, maybe. The curtain falls, not slammed, not yanked, lowered. Now let's talk legacy without perfume. She changed culture, period. She paid for honesty, and then cashed in when the culture matured. She made daytime feel safe, and for a season that mattered, she also discovered that slogans don't manage people, systems do. And when you wear kindness as a crown, the world will check if your wrists are clean. That contradiction doesn't erase her, it humanizes her. Heroes without dents are marketing, not people. Names matter to our crowd, so remember them. Johnny Carson opened the door. Disney handed her Dory, and she made the line, "Just keep swimming," feel like scripture. Barack Obama put a medal around her neck and a frame around her fight. Kevin Hart, Katy Perry, they defended. Brad Garrett, Leah Thompson, they warned. Dakota Johnson pushed back calmly on air, and the internet turned the clip into a thesis. Warner Media pulled the thread, and the fabric unraveled. These are the markers on the road, not to smear, but to measure. Here's the part you came for. The hidden truth inside all the noise. Ellen didn't conquer America because she danced. She conquered it because she made millions of lonely afternoons feel less empty. The show wasn't about celebrity, it was about relief. When relief is your product, you cannot afford to become the cause of someone else's tension. That's the covenant. When it broke, the trust broke. She learned it late, but she learned it. And still, look at the whole canvas. A child not believed grows into a woman who made belief her brand. A comic exiled for telling the truth becomes a national honor recipient for telling the same truth a generation later. A queen of daytime falls, then gets up to say, "Yes, I heard you." A partner stands, not in a magazine spread, but in a kitchen, coaxing brittle bones through breakfast and walking beside a slower stride. That's the real footage. Dot. So what do we do with her now? We do what adults do with complicated legacies. We hold both. We keep the laughter that saved a lot of us on bad days. We keep the warning that values aren't words, they're logistics. We acknowledge the pioneers' bruises and the bruises they may have left on others. We don't canonize, days. We don't cancel, we learn. Somewhere in the Cotswolds, morning hangs like lace over the fields. A woman in her late 60s ties her shoes slower than she used to. A dog noses the door. Portia pours coffee and nags with love. Stretch first. The day is not a studio anymore. The applause is birds. The kindness is smaller now. Meals, meds, a hand at the stairs. But it counts. Maybe it counts more. If her voice ever filled your living room when you needed the sound of another human being, leave a line below. Tell me what you keep. The first time she said it out loud in '97. The way she made your mother laugh at 3 p.m. The storm she faced in 2020. Or the quiet grace of walking slower, but still walking. Press like, not as a trophy, but as a tip for the server who carried a nation's mood for 19 seasons and learned the hard way that the check always arrives.